A change in power for the city of San Diego could mean a change in policy for local businesses. Yesterday, two new council members were sworn into office, David Alvarez and Lori Zaff. Zaff is a pro-business Republican who replaces outgoing councilwoman and Democrat Donna Fry. Councilman Tony Young was unanimously selected to serve as president of the council. He said that his top priority will be addressing the city's budget deficit and promised that it would be on the agenda every week until it's corrected. Young also had a message for Walmart in response to the council's recent ordinance that critics say unfairly targets the retailer.
And I'm challenging you, Walmart. Come into my district and build a Walmart, and we'll definitely work together to make that happen.
Now, recently, the City Council pushed through an ordinance that requires developers of big box stores to complete an economic impact report in an effort to protect small businesses. With the new members in place, the council is planning to take up the issue again. And this morning, there are as we said, two new members on the City Council, and they were sworn in yesterday. Well, during her farewell address, outgoing Councilwoman Donna Fry wished them well, saying, quote, "It's really a weird place to work." And we're joined this morning by political analyst John Dadian. And good morning, John. I bet you would agree. It really is a weird place to work.
Yeah. Well, Donna Fry's always been called a straight shooter, and there's another great example.
She doesn't let you down. So let's start off with the San Diego City Council. What do you see with these two new people coming on board?
Well, what we saw yesterday was a textbook of how our democracy is supposed to work. You're having two new, fresh faces on board, and then you got some seasoned people that have been there for over a term, so it's the perfect mix. It does change the dynamics a little bit with Lori Zaff going into Donna Fry's seat, because now there are three Republicans. Change over in the strong mayor system, pretty soon they're going to have a different type of veto system, so that three Republicans might make a difference.
The two of them seem to come, though, from very different backgrounds and angles on this whole thing. You have a Republican and a Democrat, and they seem to balance each other out.
Right, and keep in mind, the city of San Diego is by district, so they represent different districts. Lori's got the Claremont Mesa, kind of central San Diego, and David Alvarez has the south part of San Diego.
We heard Tony Young say he's going to keep the budget on, the agenda every week until we get this thing figured out. Is it possible to get this thing figured out? I mean, whether you're at the local, the state, or the federal level, government is broke, in major debt.
After being around in politics for 30 years, I'm still optimistic. Yes, it is possible, but doesn't mean it's easy, doesn't mean it's not going to be painful. With Prop D failing on the last ballot, the cuts that are going to be made are going to be painful, without a doubt. Tony Young is stepping up to the plate, and he's doing the right thing. It shows what his statement yesterday showed. His priorities are in check.
One of their big issues on the San Diego City Council is getting this managed competition going. I think Carl DeMaio has been running the managed competition clock, where he's showing that for every day that we don't input managed competition, we're losing this much money. I think it's up to something like $230 million now. Does Lori Zaff change that? Can they move forward on that?
She changes it slightly because, again, it gives it a little bit more of negotiations. But there's the unions that represent all the different parts of city employees really have a stranglehold on the city, and they are definitely going to get their way. You saw that with the Walmart issue yesterday, that there's not going to be a budge on that.
Well, except you had Tony Young saying now, you know what, Walmart, come to my district, and we'll work together. We'll make this thing happen.
What was really interesting is he said that in his remarks, and that was in the morning. In the afternoon, they had the council meeting. Kevin Faulkner had to start off the meeting because they hadn't elected a president yet. They put back on the docket the Walmart issue. As soon as Tony Young became president, he took it off.
Oh, well, there you go. So maybe we'll see a change with all of that.
I don't know.
Meanwhile, Ben Hueso now moves up to the Assembly. What do you see with him moving there? Can he make any kind of a difference up there?
Well, you have two former council members going to the Assembly. Tony Atkins also took office yesterday, former council members. So absolutely. Now, those two are in the majority party, and now you've got all three branches of government up, or excuse me, the legislative and the executive branch being run by one party. So I think we're going to see what Jerry Brown does on the budget.
You have Schwarzenegger, before he leaves now, calling for a meeting on the budget, saying we've got to do something. Now he's saying the budget deficit over $25 billion for the state, wanting to get this stuff done before he leaves, but the other side is saying, hang on, let's wait until Jerry Brown gets in. What's going to happen on that front?
With all due respect to Governor Schwarzenegger, it reminded me of the Pat Benatar song from the 80s. It's a little too little, it's a little too late. It just, it's a shame. Jerry Brown is coming out with a plan to handle this. Phrase I've been using a lot going back to the 60s. People used to say only Nixon could go to China, meaning that he was the only one who could work with communists. I think Jerry Brown, unlike Meg Whitman, is the only one who's going to be able to stand up to the unions.
You wonder how he's going to do it, though. Can you make money grow on trees? Because the problem is they are $25 billion in debt. How do you take care of that without making drastic changes to what you're paying out?
The answer is you don't. You do make drastic changes, as my comment before. It's going to be painful, no doubt about it.
Okay. And then at the federal level, we got the same thing. I don't even know what the budget deficit is. It's in the trillions of dollars up there. Have there been any changes at that level? The Republicans are taking over. I mean, now it's in their, side of the court. You can't just say the Democrats are doing it wrong. They got to do something about it.
Well, again, the Republicans technically don't take over till January, but what they're trying to do in the next couple of weeks is decide exactly what they're going to do on these tax cuts. And I got to tell you, everybody's holding their breath. Middle class, upper class, it's going to affect everybody depending on what they do.
It's very interesting times that we live in.
Old Chinese proverb. Be happy that you live in interesting times, and we do.
Yeah, and we certainly do. See, all right. It keeps things good for you, John Dadian, because you can comment on all this stuff. All right, John Dadian, thanks for being with us this morning.